What if you didn't have to work for money? I mean, really, what if your money could actually work for you? Well, today on The Explainer, we're going to unpack a super powerful, hands-on lesson from Rich Dad Poor Dad that shows you exactly how to make that happen. So it all kicks off with this really simple but totally life-changing question. You've got this 9-year-old boy, and he's feeling kind of left out because his family isn't wealthy. So he goes to his dad, his highly educated poor dad, and just asks him point blank, "Dad, can you tell me how to get rich?"
And right here, you immediately see two completely different mindsets about wealth. The boy's own dad, the poor dad, gives him this super vague academic answer. Use your brain. Right, what does that even mean? But his friend's father, the rich dad, he offers something you can actually grab onto, a challenge. His response wasn't some boring lecture. It was a real, hands-on opportunity. And it all started with one question. Are you ready to learn?
The boys, they jump at the chance. And Rich Dad puts them to work immediately. Their very first job? Dusting endless rows of canned goods in this hot, dirty storeroom for 3 hours every single Saturday. And their pay for all that hard work? A measly 10 cents an hour. That's it.
Okay, so that initial excitement, yeah, that wore off fast. The first week was a grind, but by week 3, the frustration was just boiling over. They felt like they were learning absolutely nothing. It was just pointless work. By the 4th week, the boy had totally had enough. He felt angry, exploited, and he decided he was going to quit.
So he marches straight up to Rich Dad, totally ready for a showdown. And all that frustration just comes pouring out. He accuses him of being greedy, selfish, of using them without teaching them a single thing. He even throws it in his face that his other employees complain about him too.
But here's the twist. Instead of getting angry, Rich Dad just smiles. This, he explained, this feeling, this was the first lesson. See, life doesn't give you lectures. It pushes you around. And every single push is life yelling, "Hey, wake up. There's something I want you to learn here." Most people, he said, just let life push them around. And that's how they get stuck in what he called the rat race.
So what is this rat race exactly? Well, Rich Dad breaks it down into this really powerful cycle. It all starts with the fear of not having money. That's what pushes you to get a job in the first place. Then you get that paycheck, and instantly, greed and desire kick in, and you start dreaming of all the cool things you can buy. So you spend the money, it's gone, and that fear comes rushing right back. The whole pattern just repeats over and over, usually with bigger expenses each time. It's a total trap. Now, to force them out of this trap, Rich Dad makes a proposal that sounds, honestly, insane. He tells them to keep on working, same job, same hours, but for zero pay. He was cutting off their income completely. This really forced them to make a choice. Do they go back to the familiar grind for a tiny wage? Or do they trust that working for free is somehow going to lead to a far more valuable lesson? It was a confusing decision for sure, but their curiosity went out, and they reluctantly agreed. A few weeks later, Rich Dad decides to test their resolve. He comes at them with a series of really tempting offers. First up, 25 cents an hour. They refused. Then he offered a whole $1 an hour. They refused again. Then $2 an hour, which you got to remember was an absolute fortune for a kid at the time.
And then came the final, almost unbelievable offer, $5 an hour. This wasn't just a raise. This was enough money to make them the richest kids in town, period.
I mean, can you imagine that temptation? Their minds were probably just racing, thinking of new bikes, new baseball gloves, all the candy they could buy. But somehow, they managed to quiet those emotional desires. They understood it was a test, and they said no to every single offer. By saying no, they'd pass the test. Rich Dad smiled. He told them they had finally learned to control their fear and their greed, to think beyond the immediate paycheck. Now, he said, they were finally ready for the real lesson. It was time to actually use their brains.
And something pretty incredible happened. The moment they were freed from the mindset of just working for a wage, their minds truly opened up. They started seeing the world differently, and it wasn't long before they spotted their first real business opportunity, right there in the very store where they worked.
So here's how their business worked, and it was brilliant. They saw the store's distributor tearing the covers off old comics and just tossing them. So they asked a simple question, can we have them? That was step 1, acquiring an asset for free. Step 2, they set up a comic book library in a basement. They even hired Mike's sister as the librarian. And finally, they started generating income by charging other kids 10 cents for 2 hours of unlimited reading.
And the results were just staggering.
Their job at the store earned them $0 for 3 hours of work. But their comic library? It was pulling in about $9.50 a week. And here's the magic part. After the initial setup, it required 0 hours of their own labor. They had built a business that ran itself.
They had finally done it. Without a wage, they figured out how to create their own money. And this is the core principle they learned. Most people work for money. The rich have their money work for them. That comic book library was an asset, a system generating income all on its own.
And that very first lesson leaves us with a powerful question we should all be asking ourselves. So as you look at your own life, your own job, your own finances, take a moment and reflect. Is your money working for you, or are you working for it?